Hello, welcome to First Impressions Day. It's a bit big for the camera overhead, so we're doing it this way to start with at least. And today we're looking at a ship. Not done a ship kit for a little while. It's the Italian heavy cruiser Fiume, which means river. So, I don't know a huge amount about the Italian Navy, unless of course it's had a run-in with the Royal Navy, and this is pretty much how this one ended. It was sunk by Warspite, and I'm going to get this wrong, so I'm going to switch the camera off and remind myself, because I want to say Victorious, but I don't think that's Valiant. Right. So Warspite, Valiant, Barham engaged in a big action with this ship and a couple of her sister ships, all of which got sunk. But yeah, 94 years ago, 1930, she was launched. She did quite a lot of operations in the Mediterranean, interfering with Allied convoys, and then Battle of Matazapan, I think it was, is where she saw her end. But anyway, I have never built a model of an Italian warship before, so this is my first, and this is looking like it might be a nice little kit. So as we look at the box, it tells us that we've got the Italian heavy cruiser Fiume, that its length is 522.3 millimeters long, so it's just over half a meter long. Beam is 63.1 millimeters, and it's got 420 plus pieces, which usually includes any photo etch that's in there, so less plastic pieces. It's 1/35 scale, tells us it's a detailed scale kit for adult collectors to assemble. So yeah, as we look on this side, we have an overhead picture of the Italian ship, and I do love these stripy red and white bows they've got. Very, very visible, and something a bit different to paint up. And then it's got a blue deck area, which I'm guessing is all steel deck. Looks like the that sort of front 2/3 of the ship is steel, and then they've got wood deck at the back, so that's an interesting combination, isn't it? And then we've got the usual, gives us a little bit of history, and yeah, the ends replicate the front, and I've got to say the artwork is quite nice on the front. Possibly shows her going into action. It was a nighttime action where she was sunk, so I think that could be Battle of Matazapan maybe. And then on this side here, let's zoom you in a little bit, we've got some images of the photo etch, the decals, the ship's aircraft, side profile of the ship. Be careful of the paints, they could be fanciful, they usually are. And then some CAD images, some of which show the placement of some of the photo etch. So, there you go. Right, let's have a look at the instructions, shall we? Right then, so we have the typical Trumpeter instruction manual. It's landscape format, black and white matte, which is always a good thing, and it's stapled. We have a little read before assembly section, and then some helpful tips on decals. And then tucked away in the corner here, we have the key that you're going to use as you work your way through the build. And it tells us that the kit number is 05348. As we turn over the page, we have the start of the sprue map, which seems to be over 2 pages. If nothing else, a sprue map is helpful for quickly checking that you've got everything that you should have. Like, for example, I couldn't find the decals. In the box, there is a little box glued in for the hull, and they'd slid under there. But yeah, always worth checking. We do have the part numbers on as well, so you can cross-reference. If you can't identify a part, you can always come back to the sprue map. So, we have a hull, we have a 2-part deck, then we've got, not in particular order, 1, 2, 3 sprues there. Quite often this ends up being 4 parts in a bag. So we will have to see. Then as we flip over, we've got another sprue. Yeah, so what was that? 3? Yeah, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which is the stand. 2 of those, so 8, 9. 2 of those, 10, 11, and 4 of those, so 15 sprues in total. 3 frets of photo etch, some decals, and a bit of paper that's stuck down. I'm interested to know what's on the underside of that. Ah, chain. So they haven't included anchor chain. That's interesting, because we always get anchor chain with a Trumpeter kit as a general rule. Right then, step 1, and our build starts with the single piece hull and inserting the 2 decks. There's no support between the decks, so you may want to consider putting some in yourself, have a play, dry fit it, test it, see what you think. Then we are doing sub-assemblies of guns. I suspect we won't need these for a while, so already I'm saying build sequence is probably an issue, and I've not turned the page yet. So let's see. Yeah, see, we're not fitting guns. Didn't think we were. We've got separate bilge keels. Modelers are divided on whether that's good or bad. Personally, I prefer it. Because you get a better, thinner bilge keel. So, you know, personal preference, I prefer them separate. Other people I know hate it. Then we've got the shaft lines and the propellers there. So twin shafts and the rudder. I would generally keep the rudder and 2 screws off, put the shaft lines in, and then put those in towards the end when you're about to permanently mount it on its base. That's sort of when I would do it. Then we've got another sub-assembly. We might be all right with this, I'm not sure, but I suspect not. We've got a funnel. So we've got 2 funnel halves, we've got separate pipes, which is nice, and then we've got some life rafts to be added onto the side there. So that'll add some colour and interest. Little photo etch platform. Notice that the flow is backwards and then back this way. A little odd to the Western eye, at least. Then we've got the funnel cap going on. We've got a photo etched part that it says bend, so it's probably slightly domed. You might be worth making a former for that. So you can make a former out of something like milliput. You dome it, sand it into the shape you want, and then bend your photo etch around it. I've done that in the past. It works quite well. Bit time consuming, but it's worth doing it to get a nice form. And then we've got the internal bit, so you're not looking into a black hole. You have got something there you can paint up, and then the funnel cap goes on. Yeah, so lots and lots of sub-assemblies. So I wouldn't recommend doing any of this until you need to fit it. It's the ideal way of getting things damaged, because you might have to store some of these parts for a number of months, depending on your build speed. Right, so we've got what appear to be rangefinders. We've got platforms. So building it up, rangefinder, platform, bit of photo etch and a ladder, and then we're mounting all that together. Another rangefinder, anti-aircraft guns, I'm reckoning, on a platform. Then we've got what appears to be an observation deck and signal deck, all being put together. So bridge, rear platform for the bridge, rangefinders being mounted each side, and then we've got a spotlight tower with photo etch. So that's a nice detail to have done in photo etch. Glad they've done that. Tamiya would do that in plastic, you see, and it looks dreadful, but that's a really good way forward. Then we've got more anti-aircraft guns, and then we're building up ventilators. Right, step 9. Okay, so step 9, we've got lower superstructure. All seems to be steel deck, so easy painting, and some of our sub-assemblies are going on. So this is the point when I would make the sub-assemblies that you need. So I'd be going to step 9 and going, right, I need these ventilators, so I'll go back to the relevant page and do the ventilators. That's sort of how I'd do it. But yeah, we've got some structures going underneath. Looks nicely detailed. We've got doors, windows, we've got lockers. So looks like we've got some nice details in there. Then we've got some structures going in, so that'll be slide molded, as that's a complete moulding in itself, right? Anti-aircraft guns, photo etched bits of railing and ladders. And then step 10, we're making more sub-assemblies, but this time they're all relevant to the sequence. See, 2 different approaches. You're really going to have to divide all this up into sections, into separate sections, and then renumber them in the sequence you want to build them, and flick about a little bit is the way to go. Yeah. Paravanes going on, building up some platforms around this structure, photo etched railings included, which is good. Then we've got more structures coming together, more railings, rangefinder. Quite compact little unit when finished, so that'll be really nice and detailed, and then that gets mounted on this first piece we started. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decks being built up there. So that's pretty cool. Step 11, and we've got the tripod legs for the mast going in, and then we've got, yeah, so we've got ship's boats being built, which have separate chocks for them to sit on. That's interesting. We've got some photo etch antenna spreaders, more ship's boats, building up the anchor, building, looks like a crane. Okay. Then step 12, we are doing another. That's interesting. They've separated. Step 12, make the funnel cap. Step 14, make the funnel. Step 13, nothing related to the funnel. It's odd how they put their instructions together sometimes. You can get good ones, you can get bad ones. These, I think, are fairly bad in terms of flow, but everything else is nice and clear. You know, we'll talk about my usual criticisms of Trumpeter's instructions in the summary. Step 13 is probably my step 2 by the looks of it, although I won't put the jack staff on there, but deck fittings. I like to work from the middle and work up and work out, which means I would do all the deck fittings at a low level, and then I would do the superstructure, and then I'd do the funnels and anything between the funnels, and then I'd start moving up and out from there. So that's how I generally do it. It saves you knocking things, having to reach over things. So yeah, so quite often I've got rigging on in the center section before I've got items fitted on either side. But yeah, we've got separate bollards, capstans, not quite sure what those are. Separate cable reels, then the crane. That looks like it's perhaps for loading stores or ammunition or something like that. And several bollards and some hatch covers, all separate, so that's really, really nice. Looks like we've got a moulded on chain there, which is why they've not included one. We will just take that off and replace it with chain. Absolutely not having a moulded on anchor chain. Right, step 15 now. We're building up what looks like more rangefinders or fire control units or something like that, don't know. Little photo etch gussets, which are nice. And we're continuing with deck furniture with more capstans, hatches, bollards. Looks like the skylights are moulded in. So again, this is probably my step 3, I think. Then when we flip over, we're building up the mast. So that looks nicely done. Nice combination of plastic and photo etch to give us some finesse in its finished look. Yeah, really nice. And then we've got a crane off that lower mast there. So yeah, okay, cool. You see what I mean about the sequence? We built up all that bridge and stuff, and we don't need it for ages because we're still on basic deck fittings, but at step 20. So the build sequence is all over the place. I'd pay no attention to the sequence at all. We've got another spotlight platform. Then we're putting in the 2 lower superstructure sections, which should sort of be my start point. Build up those and put them in. And then once again, we're coming back to something we did in step 19 and adding the photo etch. Why they've done that is beyond me. Right. Okay, so interestingly, we've got photo etch to go all the way around. So that's nice. I was a bit worried that we didn't have enough because, well, we'll have a look when we look at the photo etch, but to me it looks like there's not enough to go all the way around, but clearly they think there is. So yeah, main guns being built there. So they're quite close together, those barrels, aren't they? I hadn't noticed that before, but yeah, the Italian barrels are very close together. So I guess that gives them in the turret, that gives them operating space on either side rather than having them spread out. I bet that gave them some maintenance problems though. Interesting. Anyway, funnels being built up, 2 separate barrels, turret top, base, and the 2 vision ports there. So yeah, we've got some separate davits going on, ship's boats going on. See, all of that looks right to me. That makes sense to me before you put the other stuff on. So yeah, just wants to resequence. Anchors going on there as well. So yeah, saying put those on last, I think. So it's sort of implying that the ship's boat needs to be glued to the side of the davits. Those davits are hull side mounted, they're not on the deck. So yeah, the Japanese did it a bit like that as well, where they'd have them mounted on the side of the hull, and then usually there's a hinge so they can fold them down when not in use. So yeah, and then a little bit of rigging on there would make them look brilliant. Looks like we've got some holes to drill in the turrets if you've got this item going on the top, which you have on 2 of them, but not all of them. 4 turrets, of course. Right, then we're building up the seaplane assembly of RO43. Don't know what that is, but I'm guessing it's this aeroplane. So it's a float plane, single float with 2 stabilizer floats, plastic propeller rather than photo etched. These of course will all be clear, so it'll be terrible to see. First thing I do is tend to prime them rather than try and build it up in clear plastic. They're horrible to look at in clear plastic. Right, okay. Then we've got final assemblies going on. So we've got the mast in the middle, funnels either side, then that platform we built up, then the bridge that we built up way back, and then we're putting on the guns and putting the stand together. And oh, I've just seen the sign. We'll come to that when we look at it in the plastic. So yeah, for me, I would be building all the decks, then the lower decks, and putting the railings on and what have you, and then putting the mast in, and then doing the funnels, and then doing probably this back piece and any rigging towards the back, then building up the front piece, then any rigging towards the front, then lastly put your guns in. That would be my general process. Anyway, there we go. That's our build instructions. Let's have a look at the paint instructions. Right, we have a single page, A3, I'm guessing, colour page for the paint instructions. So there's no painting instructions throughout the instructions, as is typical for Trumpeter, and it's slightly glossy, so if I put it down you can't see, so it's a little harsh on the eyes. If I do it that way, however, you can see and I get the shine, so better for you. Right, so what we've got is we've got two side profiles and a buff profile, which shows the basic colours, and the colours are being called out. Some of them are mixers. I notice quite a lot of them are mixers, the greys. So let's talk about that. So the paint reference colour is their title. So what they're calling out is Mr. Hobby, Acrison, Vallejo, Model Master, Tamiya, Humbrol. Yep. And let's see, Humbrol and Vallejo, Acrison, Mr. Hobby, they've all got the full range. Tamiya, as you'd expect, don't, and Model Master don't. So you've got some colours missing. So they're suggesting that Tamiya don't have a tan. Okay. But here's my issue. Right, they tell you the colours, which is fine, but then they tell you for the grey deck, for example, we'll take that as an example, you mix 10% 11 with 90% 54. So that's 10% flat white with 90% navy blue. Okay, so they want you to lighten the blue, but there is no way that that blue from Mr. Hobby and Vallejo and Humbrol is all the same shade. So mixing it 90% is clearly a nonsense. So as I always say with the instructions, the paint instructions for Trumpeter and Hobby Boss ships, it's probably worth ignoring them, doing your own research and deciding on the colours you want to use yourself, because this is clearly off. It's clearly not right. So even if they've got the general sort of basic colours right, the shades can't be right just from the fact that they want you to mix them the way they are. I mean, yeah. So I would even double check that. They do give you an option of the anti-fouling as green or red, but they don't tell you at what point in her career she had green or red. If you think about what Airfix would do, Airfix would say it's this colour, but she was known to have this colour at this point in her career, so you've got the option. That's how Airfix would do it. They quite often put annotations in their paint instructions. So yeah, when was it red? When was it green? Was it ever green? Was it ever red? Do your research, because I do not trust Trumpeter's paint schemes. Even the patterns can be a little bit off at times, and they've made some howling errors. I mean, some of it is just fiction on previous kits. So I have no idea how accurate this is. This could be really good for all I know. But I suggest that possibly you want to do your own research and just check it out for yourself. Anyway, looks like the aeroplane will be nice when it's done. 8 is... Just trying to find 8. Where's 8? Oh, I'm looking for the decal number. Silly man. 311. So 311 grey. I was wondering if it was silver, but it's a pale grey. Okay, yeah, they don't actually show you where to put the aircraft on here, but anyway. So yeah, lovely, lovely, colourful, well organised, probably wholly inaccurate. Proceed with caution, I think. What's next? And yeah, they're okay actually. We've got the ship's name that goes on the side of the hull. We've got an Italian flag, either fluttery or straight as your preference. And then we've got markings for the aircraft. So tail marking, national markings, and the ship it's assigned to. And they're a little bit thick, but nothing like a Tamiya decal, so they're not really an issue. I generally find I don't have issues with Trumpeter's decals. Colour saturation looks good, register looks good. The only thing I'd say is you've got quite a bit of margin, so you might want to carefully trim them down, especially for the aircraft. You've got a lot of margin over something that's going to go on the tail, and what you don't want is to have decal film wider than your tail, because that stands out like a sore thumb. Is it anywhere near what we want in the way of decals? Absolutely not. We've got no depth markers. You all knew I was going to say it. No depth markers, which is, you know, just fundamentally wrong. All ships have them, so why don't they put them on? It's easy enough to do. Yeah, so no depth markers. We've got no alternative flags like Admiral on board flags or signal flags or anything like that, which is a shame. Lots of people don't use them, I've got to be honest. You very rarely see ships with signal flags on and what have you, but I think it's nice to include some. But anyway, it could be done. And I'm sure there's other markings on that ship that even at 1/350 scale would be visible enough for a decal. So warning signs, door signs, locker signs, logos on guns and that sort of stuff. So yeah, it falls a bit short, but at least we've got them. Yeah, that's our decals. Okay, etch next, and we've got 4 frets of etch, 3 that we need to look at because we've got a duplicate of 1. This particular one has got on the boarding ladders. We've got some inclined ladders as well as some vertical ladders. We've got some gussets. We've got some railing, which is quite delicate actually. And then we've got some structural parts. So yeah, I think they go around the bridge area, don't they? And the 2 funnel caps, which are really delicately done, they will damage so easily. I find Trumpeter's photo etch a bit soft, and so the result is it's very easily damaged, and that will be, you know, you can even see, I don't know if you can see, one leg is already bent. Let's see if I can get that in shot. There you go. That leg there is already bent, and we haven't actually started trying to remove it out or do anything. So that will be a real pain to fit. Yeah, it will be. No two ways about that one. Okay, and then we've got some, I think they're seats that we fold for some of the guns. Yeah, we do have relief etching on there, and we, yeah, nothing wrong with it. It's very finely done. Just be careful because it can be a bit soft. That's that first one. Let's have a look at the railings next because they're a similar size. So railings, we need, we have 2 of these, and I've just done a quick calculation, and we roughly, in a straight line without any bends, you roughly need 5 of these for each side of the hull, and we've got 6 on each, so we've got 12 in total. So there is enough, it just didn't look like it. So it's generic railings, 4-bar railings, but obviously it becomes 3-bar when you install it, because 1 is just to help you sit it easily on the model. Nothing wrong with generic railings at this scale, to be honest. It just means that your stanchion posts sometimes don't make sense because of the curves. So you always put the curves in first and then do your straight edges afterwards. But yeah, we have 2 sets of those. Nothing wrong with them. Should be easy to install. All good. And finally, we have this wider piece of photo etch, largely with internal railings, so railings that don't go around the outer edge of the deck. Plus, we've got these big structural pieces and the that lamp searchlight stand caging, all really nicely photo etched, very fine, beautiful detail. Ladders, you can bend all the steps. Very, very nice. A bit delicate, not for the novice. And yeah, these aren't alternatives to plastic parts, so you've got to use them. So, you know, take a bit of time and some care with these, and absolutely don't remove them until you need to. But yeah, nicely done. Standard sort of stuff for Trumpeter. They do their photo etch very well. I just find it's a little bit soft, so it's easily bent and damaged if you don't take care. But yeah, given us the sort of the things that would be difficult to do in plastic, and it's just going to add a bit more of a scale effect. Really like it. No real issues with it. Hull now, and we've got a single piece hull, as is the way for Trumpeter these days. You no longer get the split hulls. What we've got on there, we've got the rows of scuttles, which look to be in nice straight lines, and they do have very finely moulded wriggles above them, so that's great. They're a bit elongated here where this flaring is on the front of the hull there. You can see they're a bit elongated. That's inevitable. Without them doing a section that you put in separately, that's inevitable. So you might want to straighten them up, but to be honest, they don't look too bad side on, so I perhaps wouldn't worry. We've got coaling doors or ammunition doors. We've interestingly got a boom moulded in there, which I have to say, with rigging cables and stuff, I don't like. I don't like that at all. I think that's a silly idea. Yeah, so I'm not sure what about the accuracy of the shape, because I don't know enough about the ship, but it looks like a ship's hull, so we will go with it. I'm not seeing any major flaws like significant sink or anything like that. We have the usual centre seam that will need cleaning up, but otherwise okay. The moulding around the fair leads at the front is very scrappy. Some gentle clean up. We've got flash and lumpy bits of plastic and stuff, so quite a complex bit to mould there. They would have been better doing that separately, I think. Yeah, I think there's an argument for a section from about there to there that would have been perhaps better done in sections. Obviously you might then have filling to do, so you know, but yeah, it is a bit scrappy around this bow area. Yeah, there is no panel lines on here though, so you can't make out individual panels or anything like that. Again, modelers tend to be divided at this scale. Any panel lines inevitably are oversized, but there's no, so they've gone with totally smooth. There's no canning. I don't know whether it was riveted or welded hull. I expect for a late 1920s design Italian, I suspect it's probably riveted, in which case you'd argue that you'd want some texturing on here, but they've gone with smooth. I'm okay with it. Others will want to make modifications, but I think that hull is pretty much ready to go after some cleanup of the various fair leads, which generally, as I look across the full length, all the fair leads are a bit of a mess and very delicate thin parts, so a lot of care needed. But yeah, there you go. I'm not going to take photos of the hull. I'll just show you slowly. You can always pause. Yeah, that's pretty much ready to go. I don't have any issues with it, I don't think. Just a bit of cleanup. Right, let's have a look at decks next, and we will start taking photographs, which we will show at the end of the video. Okay, starting with the rear deck, there's a step in this which I hadn't really noticed until we got to the hull where there's a step in, but yeah. So we've got a wood deck section at the back and then steel deck. Why they did that, I don't know. Interesting, isn't it? Like we spotted in the instructions, the skylights are moulded in, but they're done really well, so you can paint them up, give them a little wash, they'll pop out lovely, as will the deck. They've gone with 1, 2, 3, a 4-shift pattern on the deck. Don't know whether that's correct for Italian ships or not. No joggling, but there never is. You don't really see joggling on plastic decks generally at any scale. A little bit of clean up. There's a little bit of a lip in there, possibly there. So a little bit of clean up, but nothing too major at all. Mounting, I'm not quite sure what those are. Those hideous lumps. I hope there's something going over the top of those. I don't remember from the instructions. And we've got some little lumps which are either location points or might be hatches. So I'm already getting the feel that I need to get an etch set for this. Right, steel decks is nicely done. You've got raised steel plate lines, and you've got recessed wooden deck lines. So yeah, okay, great for doing washers and what have you. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Most of the fittings are going to be added later. It's fairly straight, no distortion, all good. So that is the bow section of deck, and then sorry, the stern, I should say. What am I saying? This is the bow section of the deck, and this is all steel deck again, and again nice and flat. Yeah, all feels good. Nice and crisply moulded. We've got some textured deck there, so that suggests that that might be anti-slip, in which case it may well be a different colour to the rest of the steel deck. So do your research, as certainly on British ships it would be like a sort of dark tan or a green, something like that, the anti-slip. So that could be the case on Italian ships. But the detail that's moulded in is nice. The hatch covers, I'm guessing, are a bit simplified. I'm guessing there would be locks and things like that on there, and there isn't. But yeah, the chain moulded in, they've done a reasonable job of it. However, it's almost impossible to paint that, so you want to remove it. Yeah, just remove it and add your own chain. So just going in with a chisel there and very carefully taking it away and trying to preserve the line. You can see the line where the chain's going over the steel decks. That's another reason to remove it. Yeah, otherwise you're going to paint it, if you want to leave it on, you're going to paint it the same colour as the deck and use a wash to try and pick out the detail. But yeah, nothing wrong with that. If we put them both together, they seem to line up right. There's no difference in width or anything. So yeah, I don't think we're going to have any issues with fit. Right then, sprue N is the first sprue we're reviewing, and it brings me to the obvious conversation about the nameplate. And many of you that have seen my ship reviews before know what I'm going to say. It's not a pleasant plate, to be honest. Firstly, where these are on the back gives us some sink on the front, so that's going to look dreadful under paint. It tells us that the scale is 1/350. It says a 1/350 scale Italian Navy heavy cruiser. Some people won't mind that. I personally dislike it. At least it doesn't say Trumpeter on it. You know, Tamiya put their logo on it, and it annoys me no end. I don't want to promote Tamiya on my display stand. I don't need to know it's 1350, and I don't need the word scale on there. You know, so Italian heavy cruiser would do for me at the best. But actually, I prefer it just because it has RN on there. So you know, I would prefer it just to say RM Fiume. But anyway, it doesn't. For me, that's completely sand it off or abandon it and don't use it, and make your own maybe. Maybe print something you can glue on there or something like that. Don't know. But yeah. So not great, the stand. As we look at the rest of the sprue, that all is a different story. Really nicely done. Got some nice crisp moulding. You've got lovely mesh moulded into the ventilator sides there, which is really nice. Lovely texturing on some of these little decks here. Really, really nicely done. We've got the hand rings around the funnel, so that will look good. We've got even the moulded on ladders don't look too bad, although that one is sort of offset because of where it is. So probably I would remove that and put some generic ladder stock in there. All of our rods, our legs and things, they've got a bit of seam on, but we haven't got big thick steps or anything, so that's good. Again, more perforations on the deck, which will come out under a wash really nicely. Some slide moulding at the end of this wheelhouse, which is again nicely done. Seems to be all featureless decks, so I'm assuming they're all steel, which given the rest of the main deck is probably a good bet anyway. I think we've got some slide moulding going on here as well. Yes, we have. I can see the slide moulding seams. The sprue gates on the mast are quite thick compared to the thickness of the mask, so really careful removal of that. Quite a delicate bit there, the mast. The lower mast section has the start point for the crane, and then it's got the block and tackle already moulded in as well, so that's a nice touch. Yeah, and I'm sure if there's a photo etch set for this, it'll replace all that. But yeah, what we've got is really nice. The sprue is bowed, but it doesn't seem to affect any parts. It's bowing at this middle section here. Yeah, very nicely done actually. No issues with that at all. Although there's no detail on the front face of the ventilator. I'm not sure if that's right, given that it's got side. Yeah, that's strange. I would have thought, given the shape, that there would be mesh on the front. Don't know. Need to do a bit of research. As I suspected, the 4 parts that were on that big spider sprue on the instructions have actually been removed and put in a little bag. So we've got the bridge here, which has got some gussets underneath and steel doors on the back, and we've got open windows, so yeah, they all look really nice. Just want to get your knife in and open up that a little bit to remove the angle, but yeah, I mean, slide moulded, nicely done. Yeah, no real issues with that. Next one, again, we've got steel doors all the way around. Oh my lord, that is pretty nasty. Look at that. See if we can get this to focus. So I don't know what's gone on there, but that looks pretty damaged, that. So I'm guessing we're supposed to have a little square hole there or something. But that is definitely damaged. That's been done when they've been removing the part, I think. Although that looks like the sprue gate there. Oh dear. Right, then we've got another little house. We've got little indentations on the side for tripod legs. Scuttles with wriggles and nicely done watertight doors. So yeah, no real issue with that. And then lastly, the same, another couple of buildings, this time with ladders on, but actually they're done really quite nicely, so I'd leave them on. Yeah, just a shame about that one. What a mess. Sprue K now, and we've got more superstructure parts and more ventilators, and they appear to do their ventilators slightly differently. So rather than that being the front face, the grill mesh is on the sides. So that was clearly how they did it. So yeah, the mesh is really nicely done. Very, very cleverly done. Got some tool oil on this as well. So slide molded sides, which gives us some detail at least. Yeah. There's nothing at all around there, so there would have been all sorts of stuff around there, pipes and bits and pieces. Maybe we have some ventilators going from when it's built up, don't know. And then we've got another little building here on multiple levels. We can see doors on 2 levels there. So this will have photo etch and bits and pieces going around it. So yeah, nothing wrong with it, all crisply done, no issues, all good. So Sprue X3, we have 2 of these. It's got ship's boats on and rangefinder, which is slide molded, and there's some slide molding going on at the back end here. So rangefinder's really quite nicely done. There is a bit of seam at the back to clean up, and at the front, yeah, but otherwise not too bad at all, that one. We've got an anchor here with the slide molded detail on the bottom there, which is quite nice. And then we've got ship's boat. They've slide molded this, so you've got no ejector pins or anything on the inside, so that's good. Sprue gates are a bit thick, particularly as they're going right over the keel detail there, which you're going to have to sand and shape yourself. It's a bit of a shame. Whereas on this one, they've got the sprue gates on the side of the hull, which is better. But you do get an ejector pin on the inside, but that's probably covered by that, so you're not going to see it. So they've thought it through, which is great. I think that goes on there, so you're only going to see a small part of the inside of that. It's a bit strange they've slide molded that then. Yeah, this is nicely done. We've got little steps there for dropping down into the lower hull. Yeah, all looks quite nice. There's no windows on the sides though, which there would have been. Oh yes, there is. They're so delicately molded that I couldn't see them. You can see them in the light there until I changed the light. Let's just have a look at the front. Yeah, there is on the forward element as well, but they're very faint, so you'll have to carefully paint them in. Capstan there as well, and the shaft for the anchor. And then we've got the mounting chocks there for the ship's boats. Another capstan. That's the bit that we see goes on 2 of the turrets. I'm not quite sure what that small little bit is, but yeah. Yeah, all very nicely done actually. No issues with that. Sprue Y2 now, and we've got the crane boom there, couple of structural parts, radio loop, 1 of the funnel caps, a little bit of deck platform. We've got ejector pin marks underneath it, but to remove them you're also going to have to remove the location points for the base. So you need to look at the base. If the base is photo etched, you're going to have to remove the ejector pin marks. So That's a bit of a pain, but nice detailing of the deck texture. And then a couple of rangefinders or fire control equipment or something like that. And what looks like the base for something has a little steel door on it. All of those slide moulded. Yeah, nice. Sprue X1, and we've got some side pieces for some of the ventilators, pipework for around the funnel. Not quite sure if that's pipework for the funnel or a jack staff or quite what that little rod is. A couple of structural pieces there that do have scuttles and doors on them. Just a disc there, so I'm not quite sure what that's for either. And something that looks like a rangefinder, but it's only the front face of it, so that must attach onto something else, so don't really know. But there's no issues with it. It's nice and crisply moulded. Yeah, all good. Clear parts now, and as always that means that's the aircraft. I have no idea why they do the aircraft in clear parts. It's really annoying. Of all of this, the only thing that's actually clear is the tiny little triangle at the front and the little rectangle behind, and even that is framework included, so there's no reason for all of this to be in clear plastic. Clear plastic is harder to mould, so as a result all our little panel lines and things are oversized. Yeah, it's nice that it's hollow and what have you, but you know, doing the fuselage halves clear, fine. Do the rest of it in not clear. I mean, is it Takom that can do multiple different coloured plastics on one sprue? So you know, it just shows you it can be done. You could do clear and the rest of it not clear. I think that might be the lens for one of the search lamps, for a main search lamp or something. But we've only got one. The rest of them are going to be picked out in some form of silver. So yeah. Yeah, some fine parts, nice moulding. It's difficult when it's clear to know whether we've got any sink or not, but doesn't look like it. Don't appear to have any issues. The other issue, of course, in doing them in clear plastic is it's more brittle. So removing that propeller with its big thick sprue gates, which are thicker than the propeller, that's a problem because you've got a high likelihood of fracturing that propeller when you come to remove it. So yeah, it just makes life harder for the modeler. I wish they'd stop doing it. Sprue W now, and we have 4 of these, so all the parts that have multiples of them we're going to see on here. So we've got slide moulding there, there and there, so quite a lot going on, quite a technically complex sprue to produce. We've got our turret on the end, which is fairly featureless actually. I don't know whether that's correct or not. We've got a ladder on the back, and that is it. So yeah, there's a little bit of bolt detail around the bottom bit of the hull there on the curve, and a bit of scrappy seam on the top there, but that's all there is on there. On this side we've got secondary gun. There's a lot more detail on there. We've 2 steel doors and what looks like hand irons up the side, on one of them at least. There's a lot of sort of flash and scrappiness on the insides of them. Don't know if we can get the camera to focus on that. Can you see that rough shape is flash on the inside? The other parts seem to be okay though from a flash point of view, and I don't see any sink. We've got another ship's boat, this time unfortunately with really heavy sink marks on the inside. I mean, that's going to go on top. You'll see through the thwarts and see that, so you might want to, well, it certainly needs dealing with, whatever your solution is. That's the base of our turret there. Then we've got the main guns, which are slide moulders to give us some openings, which is nice. And these are our viewports, which are also slide moulded, again, which is nice. Quite a bit of lumpy seam on them though, and I'm seeing quite a bit of that in this kit. Yeah, then we've got secondary guns, anti-aircraft guns, nice crisply moulded, lots of detail on the sides. They'll really look special when painted up. We've got davits there. The pyrovanes look nice. Even the they're a bit chunky, but there's lots of detail on the cable reels, so don't have too much of an issue with them. They are a bit chunky though. Photo etch replacements would be desirable, I think. And then we've got our bollards, which have the angle on them, which is nice. A little bit of seam clean up, so some careful clean up, but they're all good. Life rafts have nice detail, have the wood slats on the inside. You could argue that the rope and stuff around the outside's a bit chunky, but you know, there's limitations at this scale, isn't there? And then you've got the search lamps, which are nicely done as well. Yeah, all in all, a nice set of parts. Main issue is cleaning up the interior of the boat, I think. Otherwise, everything else is really nicely done. Sprue, where are we? V. So we've got bilge keels, propeller shafts, propellers, inside sections of the funnels, jack staffs. So that rod wasn't a jack staff. That's also a jack staff, I think. Flagstaff. More legs. These ones look a bit bowed, so we'll have to see when we come to remove them. A boom. The A-frames. Okay, we'll come back to them. Yeah, the propellers, nice and thin actually, so no great issue with those. No sink, no deformed parts. Propellers can be a bit difficult. There's a bit of flash on the join there, but that's all. We've got some form of armoured turret there, little armoured windows, so quite what that is I don't know, but that's the only feature on them. Rudder, totally featureless, which wouldn't be the case really, would it? And I certainly didn't see any sacrificial anodes on any of the hull or anything like that, so some research to be done. The A-frames, they have an ejector pin on the inside, so cleanup will be difficult in there, and they're a bit scrappy. Yeah, they're a bit rough. Some of the moulding on this kit is a bit rough. A lot of heavy seam on these. Often the case on A-frames. I guess it must be the shape, because it doesn't matter the manufacturer, you often get rough A-frames. So yeah, shaft lines themselves, yeah, definitely got one that's bent. You see that? You see how that's curving up? So we might be removing that and replacing it with some metal rod or something, don't know. Yeah, not too bad, not too shabby. Penultimate sprue, and we have our two lower superstructure castings, and they are really nicely done. Slide moulded all round. Very nice. Again, a bit rough. We've got flash on them. We've got a combination of steel and wood decks on there, and steel and anti-slip decks on there. Skylights moulded in. So just like the deck plates, nicely detailed. We do have some hinges and latches on this hatch or whatever it is. We've got a location point for the funnel there. The splinter shields are nice. They're not thick and chunky. Yeah, and they haven't chamfered them, which does look better if they can get them thin enough. No chamfer really helps. We've got detail on the side with steel doors, watertight doors, and windows. That isn't a feature, that's just really heavy seam that we need to get rid of. Yeah, same on that side. a steel door on that side and location point for the mast there. Then we've got location points for more structures on this one and for the ship's boats. Like I say, the skylights are nicely done. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. It's mainly location points for everything else. Quite busy side. We've got lockers, what look like windows, but they're raised, so not sure. Number of watertight steel doors. Windows, rectangular windows are all need painting. They're not hollow, but I don't have an issue with that at this scale at all. Yeah, very nice actually. No issues. Sprue, I'm not taking out of the bag. It's their generic stand, and as such, it generally never fits any of the models that they make. Your touch points will be these edges here, because you know, you can't make a generic stand that fits all different hull shapes. So quite often I modify them or put something in, like some felt or something, so that you've got a bit more contact with the hull. But yeah, fairly standard fare. A lot of heavy seam on it for cleaning up. Otherwise, yeah, okay. Well, there you have it, the 1 to 350 scale Italian heavy cruiser Fiume or River by Trumpeter. What is my first impressions? Well, I think generally, as Trumpeter ship kits go, it's standard fare. If we think about it, box and packaging, absolutely brilliant. We've got foam wrap around delicate parts. We've got individual bags for most things. We've got really nice corrugated box with subsections in it. So packaging, you can never argue with Trumpeter's packaging. It is probably the best you can get, actually, if I'm honest. Then when we think about the instructions, they're clear, easy to follow. They're just sequenced completely wrong. Certainly for the way I build ships, but I think for most people as well. So unless it's the only thing you're building and you've got lots of space, and you can put all those sub-assemblies to one side and keep them safe, I wouldn't follow the sequence of the instructions at all. It's all over the place. That's my major issue with the instructions. Otherwise, they're clear and easy to follow. Nice big pictures. It just needs a bit of segregating and resequencing. And of course, there's no paint call-outs as you build, so you've got a cross-reference with the paint sheet. Now, the paint sheet, as far as that element of the instructions go, I have some concerns. Generally, I say with Trumpeter and Hobby Boss instructions, chuck them away, do your own research. Don't keep them, because you're tempted to then look at them and you might end up doing something they tell you to do. I basically think that in the main they do vary. They range from poor to completely made up, and I don't know enough about this ship to know how accurate they are. But I always recommend you do your own research on paint schemes for any Trumpeter or Hobby Boss ship. So yeah, and I'm really concerned that they've got you mixing paints, same ratios, regardless of brand. It's a massive alarm bell that there's something wrong there. So I wouldn't pay any credence to them. I'd just use them for placing your decals on the aeroplane. So maybe just cut the aeroplane out and chuck the rest away as quick as you can. Plastic parts. A lot of cleanup on them, a bit more than usual, I think. We came across quite a lot of flash, and then we had that part that was quite heavily damaged, which shouldn't have got through quality control, so that's an issue. But generally, the parts themselves are nicely done, crisply moulded, some nice details in places, even some finesse on some of the moulding parts, but generally fairly standard stuff. If you've built a Trumpeter kit before, you know exactly what you're getting. Nothing major. Yeah, nicely done. Lots and lots of slide moulding to keep the part count low and keep the detail high. So I love that about what they do. Yeah, very nice in the main. No real issues with the plastic parts other than the cleanups. You've got a fair bit of cleanup to do on some of them, and some of the sprue gates are a bit thick and chunky, which will cause you a problem on the thinner parts like the masts and that propeller for the aircraft, for example. So yeah, they're a good okay is what I'd say. Photo etch. It's really nice. We've got railings for all around the ship. It can be a bit hit and miss with Trumpeter kits, whether you get enough railings or not. So I think the photo etch details are nice. Again, quite a bit of finesse in them, which makes them very, very delicate and very, very easy to damage because the material's a bit soft. But otherwise, all good. So all in all, you've got a good model here. You know, it's not outstanding. There's things they could do to improve it. You know, the decals are lackluster. They always are. So we can judge this in two ways. As far as a typical Trumpeter model ship goes, you've got a good average here. As far as a general model for the modeler to build, you've got an okay good model here. So yeah, if that sort of makes sense. You've not got the finesse of a Tamiya ship, but you've got better detail in places than a Tamiya ship. You've not got the accuracy of one of the later, I'm thinking about the D-Class 1350 Airfits kit and the Illustrious kit. You've not got that accuracy that they have, and you've not got the level of decals that they have. They cover everything off on the decals. So absolutely they could do more to improve what they do. The more recent you get with Trumpeter kits, the more dumbed down they get, and that's to the detriment of the modeler. They're obviously trying to keep the cost within a price range, but actually the modelers are suffering. This is old enough to not be too bad, and we've got things like the railings and stuff. So all in all, quite a nice kit, and I'm looking forward to building it at some point in the future. So I hope that was useful and you enjoyed the review. Thanks for looking in. I will see you very soon, and until then, you enjoy your modelling, and bye for now.
Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so. It's free, and that way you won't miss my first impressions, my tool reviews, my product reviews, and any of my builds, including wooden model kits as well as plastic. It's all free, and if you'd like to support the channel, you can hit my PayPal link in the text below. Every pound goes straight into the channel to keep the cameras rolling and to do more fun stuff for you to watch.